Hi, I'm back practicing. I actually haven't practiced much at all in the last few weeks. I've been extremely busy, so it has not been my top priority. But today I am taking a day off, so it's actually kind of like a vacation day for me. I decided this morning, actually I decided last night, that I was going to have a day of rest today. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, actually. So there's a special emphasis on freedom. It actually has nothing to do with why I'm taking today off, but it's interesting that it happens to be a holiday about freedom. So I actually got inspired to practice, and I want to practice. So I'm looking down here and seeing my violin on the chair next to me. And because it's been a while, I think I'm going to talk about and practice reacquainting myself with my instrument. So all this work that I do with the Art of Freedom and the Alexander Technique comes down to how we are in relationships first with ourselves and then with the world around us. And that includes the instrument. Whatever instrument you play, you have a relationship with it. And it's not a living, breathing being, but it does respond to how we treat it. So the very first step is to make sure I'm in tune with myself. So before I started this video, I did a little bit of my regular Alexander Technique, Art of Freedom, warming up without the instrument. And I did a little bit of stretching, which I sometimes do. So I feel like I've already started my practicing with the most important part, taking care of myself, getting myself, as I said, in tune with myself, centered, in shape, and aware of the space within and around me. Very important. So now I want to include my instrument in my space. I'm aware of the space between me and the instrument, so I'm not, diving in and rushing down to grab my instrument, which if you see how I do that, you'll see that I put a lot of tension in my neck if I do it that way. And if I were to do that, kind of in a rushed or mindless way with that excess neck tension, then I would be bringing unnecessary neck tension to my instrument playing. That hopefully is obvious that it's not a good thing. We want to learn how to play our instruments with the least possible amount of tension necessary for what we're doing, so that we're conserving energy, using the energy wisely, and we're able to think better and move more freely and spontaneously. So I'm really taking my time and acknowledging that I'm here and my instrument is there. We're each in our rightful place. I'm in my space, the violin is in its space, and the bow is in its space. And so we're in a relationship already, even though we're not talking. Well, maybe I'm talking to my instrument, hello instrument, but we're not talking physically. That's what I meant to say rather than talking. It's interesting that word came out, the talking. We're not actually touching each other at this point, but we are in relationship. I'm acknowledging its presence and welcoming it into my space. I'm also making sure that I'm not unconsciously reacting to my instrument with unnecessary tension. You'd be surprised, or maybe not, how much unconscious reaction we can have just to the idea of our instruments, even when they're not even in the same room. Maybe you have something like that going on in yourself. What happens when you think about your instrument? Some people get really excited and they're very happy when they think about their instruments because they have a really positive relationship going on. Lots of professionals or aspiring professionals have a lot of fear responses that have built up over the years. They may have intense love of their instrument, and yet It's been combined with a lot of pressure and intensity. So there can be some fear response to seeing the instrument or thinking about it, and that's really, really worth working out, because you do not want to bring that unconscious tension to your playing. So you want to be able to notice it, acknowledge it if it's there, and choose to pay attention to it and let go of it in whatever way that you're learning to do with the Alexander technique, hopefully. And so then you can approach your instrument free of all that stuff, or at least minimizing it. You know, tension or ease in the neck area or anywhere else is always relative. Tension and ease are relative. I like to think that we are innately free as human beings, meaning we have free will, we have the freedom to choose our thoughts and our movements and how we're going to think from one moment to the next, as soon as we're aware of that possibility. So that, the fact that we're human and have that potential for awareness, that free will, that is something that doesn't change. Of course, this is something that's arguable, and I'm not saying I know for sure, but this is what I think is practically useful if I want to change something about myself, to be open to the possibility that I have free will and that I can consciously choose what thoughts are going to be helpful for me in this moment and in the next. So that brings me back to my 3 magic phrases. First one is I'm free, or just wondering about freedom. Am I free? And opening up to the possibility that I have the freedom to choose. And so I'm choosing to, again, include my violin in my sphere of space around me. And now I would like to pick it up. But before I pick it up, I'm going to stop. And again, not lunge into it, because look at the stuff that I do. You see that? That's what I don't want. So I want to stop and detach myself again from my object, my goal, my desire to pick it up. I have the goal, but I don't want to be too attached to it. So that if I change my mind and want to go this way, that's fine. I'm just ready for anything. And I'm noticing ease in my system. I'm thinking I'm free and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to pick it up. That's a way of giving myself freedom, is to think I don't have to do it. I want to do it. It's totally different if I think I have to or I want to. I want to practice. I want to pick up the instrument. And I have all the time and space I need to do so. And that was a much easier, more fluid movement than if I had mindlessly just jumped into doing that movement without pausing first. So now I'm wondering actually, I wonder what I want to do with this. First I'll say, hello violin, it's been a while. So I'm sort of reacquainting myself with this instrument. You know, after not playing for a while, it's really hard to know what's going to come out. I don't really have a clear intention for what I want to do. So I'm going to wait until an intention comes to me. I don't want to dive into just playing just for the sake of playing. I would like to be clear about why I'm doing it. And that clarity is coming as I remember that the reason I decided to practice today was because I wanted to do it and I looked forward to enjoying connecting with my instrument. So no matter what I do with it, my primary intention is to enjoy myself and reacquaint myself with both the violin and the bow. Poor bow, I think bows get neglected. We're always talking about the violin, but it's 2 instruments really, and they need each other, and we need both. Of course, you could play pizzicato all your life, but I think we could agree that a bow is pretty essential. So I'm really wanting to start becoming aware of the feelings inside of me as well as what I'm noticing outside of me. And I'm becoming very aware of what it feels like to be touching the bow, be touching the instrument. I'm hearing my voice. I'm seeing the room around me. And I'm asking, how easy is my neck? And when I ask that, I start to notice some easing in my legs and back. And I just want to play with putting up the instrument. Actually, not even that. I just want to play with contacting it without a reaction of tightening. I want to be able to touch my instrument with the least possible amount of pressure. So instead of going to grip my instrument out of habit, I want to honor it and respect it and treat it well. If I treat my instruments well, they respond and they will treat me well. This I have found to be true again and again and again and again. The sound the violin produces reflects my own state of being, my state of mind, bodily well-being, my whole person state. So that's why I'm taking quite a long time to really make sure that both instrument and I are in balance. I don't want to be exerting any, see, I just noticed I was really holding on much stronger, much more intensely than necessary with my right hand here. I think there's an unconscious fear of dropping this precious instrument. So I want to explore with what is the least possible amount of tension that I need to safely hold my instrument. I'm going to put down the bow. I'm really curious as to how little effort is required. I'm noticing a lot of tension in the back of my neck. That's really interesting. There's no judgment, no criticism whatsoever. I'm just grateful that I noticed, because that means that I have something to work with. And I can stop again and ask, how easy is my neck? And notice that as soon as I ask that, I start to notice a release in my legs and in my arms, and the hold on my instrument becomes lighter. Free your arms. Yeah, so it's starting to feel very, very light and free. As my arms start to feel lighter and freer, my violin will start to feel lighter and freer and easier to hold. How easy is my neck? Millions of ways to hold the violin, not just one way. How easy is my neck? Noticing ease in my whole system, legs, back, arms. How easy is my neck? Noticing how light my arms are. I'm also noticing that I've never put the violin up like that ever before. What I love the most about the Art of Freedom and the Alexander technique is that as soon as you start experimenting and wondering and exploring what's possible, new things show up. And you never know in advance what's going to show up. So it's always interesting. It opens up a whole new world for you, like a toddler or a child gets to explore, and all of a sudden it's like, what does this thing do? Does it go this way or this way or this way? And you start to feel very comfortable with this instrument. I was taught never to touch my instrument anywhere except here and here. It's kind of sad, From a certain perspective, it makes sense. Yeah, you don't want your fingers all over the varnish, and you definitely don't want it here because oil from your fingers interferes with the rosin and how the bow works on the strings. Okay, so there are logical, important reasons why you don't want to be touching this part, and also you don't want to screw up the varnish over time. However, it does sort of instill a bit of a fear. And I'm talking about maybe minimal and unconscious, like a fear of really connecting physically with this instrument and getting to know it. There are some teachers who encourage children when they're starting to really touch the instrument everywhere. I think that's very healthy. So if you weren't allowed to do that when you were little, I give you permission. It's not going to hurt your instrument to do this once in a while. And you can always polish it later if you start getting little fingerprints or something. No big deal. But you can start to establish a really loving and all-inclusive relationship with the instrument. And I tell you, when you start touching and respecting and loving your instrument with this kind of a soft, open, spacious, light touch, and you're really, really wanting to respect the natural design of this beautiful instrument, no matter what instrument you play, whether it's trumpet or piano or violin or viola or a conducting baton, objects respond to how you touch them. You don't believe me? Try it. You've probably had the experience where, or maybe you have, where you hand your instrument to a teacher or somebody who's far more skilled than you are. They play on your instrument for a while, then they hand it back, and it feels different and it sounds better. That's what I'm talking about. They know how to handle the instrument better. So handling the instrument lovingly, with curiosity and wonder and no fear. Love, not fear. It's going to make everything sound better. I promise. It feels good. It feels good to be connecting with my violin like this again after a while. And I'm noticing the tension in my neck keeps creeping in. So I want to stop again and ask, how easy is my neck? Notice the ease in my legs and arms, and I want to pick up my bow and give it some loving treatment. I'm carefully putting my violin down. Oh, that's another thing. People are always telling you when you're little, be careful, be careful, be careful, don't drop it. Be careful, treat it well. Well, poor kids. If your parents are so afraid that you're going to drop your instrument, they're going to instill that fear into you. And you're going to be afraid of your instrument. You're going to be afraid of holding it, and then you're going to just clamp onto it extra hard so that there's no way you could drop it. That's not the way to play your instrument. We've got to go through what we need to go through, but notice when there's tension and notice when there's fear, and then give ourselves the choice to continue thinking that way or to stop. And then we can think differently if we choose to stop. So I'm just reconnecting with this bow of mine. We've had a long relationship, a good one. I really like my bow. James Tubbs. My violin is a Parasone, by the way. It's a modern Italian instrument, and I was the first person to play it. It's my instrument from, I think, 1986. Yeah, I've had it a long time, and we've gone through our ups and downs in our relationship, and it's just, in the last years, it's been opening up and more and more and more and more. And I know that's related to how I'm using my mind-body self and opening up more and more. Your instrument reflects you. Your sound reflects you. There's no hiding. There's no escape. Who you are is going to be reflected through how you play. And it's going to be reflected in the sound. So, That's why with the art of freedom, we pay so much attention to who we are and how we are using our minds and bodies, soul, spirit, awareness. And then it's about playing and finding ease and joy in what we do. I'm just sort of playing around with this bow as if I were a kid, although I have so much more insight now than I did when I was a kid. It's the advantage of being an adult. How easy is my neck? Ah, yeah. I notice ease in my arms, and that lightens up how I hold the bow. It's nice. And now they would like to connect. And I'm wondering what's going to happen now. So again, it's a bunch of relationships here. My relationship with myself, always first and foremost. My well-being comes first. My being is more important than my doing. So I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to how I'm thinking, which causes certain movements and then feelings. Then there's a relationship between me and the violin, a relationship between me and my bow, and then the relationship between my violin and my bow. And the relationship between me and this combo of violin, bow, violin. Oh, out of tune. See? I haven't practiced in a couple weeks, maybe? Can you tell? But the sound's not bad. It's just out of tune. Okay, so I think I'm going to finish up this video with some tuning. I think that would make my violin happy. Right? No. Actually, I don't think it really cares so much. It's just happy that we are in good relationship. So, how easy is my neck? Noticing ease in my back and arms. And I lost it there. I didn't lose it exactly, but I started to notice tension creeping in at a certain point. So I'm glad I noticed that. How easy is my neck? Noticing ease in my legs, neck, feet, neck. How easy is my neck? Noticing ease in my ribs. See, my violin's being nice to me. That was easy. How easy is my neck? Ease in my legs. If I take this kind of time, I'll also hear better because I've opened up all of my senses with taking this kind of time. So tuning was really easy. Thank you, violin. Thank you, bow. Thank you, me. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have a good relationship with your instrument. And I'm probably going to do something else, but I think that's enough for this video. Bye.